All right, so I roasted the spaghetti squash today. These were my video props earlier this week, but I'm actually gonna cook them. So what I'm gonna do, I found a recipe for a vegan spaghetti squash lasagna, so I'm gonna give that a try today. And so what I did is, because I don't like, these are hard shell, spaghetti squash has a hard shell, difficult to cut into, so I like to just poke holes in the squash, roast them at 350 for whatever 30 minutes I did, just so they're soft enough to cut through. I mean, they're not all cooked, but it makes the whole prep easier. So now I can cut them a lot easier. See, some parts are softer than others. I'm gonna move this guy out of the way for a second. And I'm just gonna cut this down the middle. Now you can see this, this is the spaghetti part of the squash. I'm still gonna cook it more. It's still firm, it's not quite ready, but this helps me get the seeds out. Spoon, see how it's serrated on the end? There's nice for grapefruit, but it's also nice for scraping seeds out of squash. So I'm gonna do that here and just put them in my bowl. So the seeds are all out. It just makes it, for me, easier to work with, I think. I'm gonna put this part back in the oven. So I'm gonna finish processing these, meaning I'm gonna take the seeds out, scrape the seeds out here, get rid of this part, and then I'm gonna put that back in the oven. I'm going to put these, I'm gonna brush them with olive oil, salt and pepper, face down on the roasting pan, and I'm gonna bake for another 30 minutes just to soften up the spaghetti squash. And then we'll meet back and I will show you the rest of this recipe. Okay, so I'm going to make the ricotta part of the vegan spaghetti squash lasagna. So let me go through the ingredients of the ricotta. So I used 1 package of tofu, and this is the kind I used. I use this, it's a little mesh bag that I use to squeeze out the excess liquid from the tofu. And so I'll put that whole thing in my blender, the tofu. And then we're gonna use the juice of two lemons, 1/2 cup of packed fresh basil leaves, a tablespoon of, it's calling for oregano, but when it calls for oregano, I just use Italian seasoning, and 3 to 4 tablespoons of, this is olive oil, and a 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. And also nutritional yeast. I really like this stuff a lot. I should do a whole video talk on this, but 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And also we're just gonna add black pepper to taste. Okay, so I'm going to put all this in my blender, and I'll show you what the ricotta looks like when that's all set. And in the background we have, you can see the spaghetti squash just finishing cooking up. So stay tuned, I will get right back to you on the rest of this recipe. So this is kind of like the consistency of cheese or ricotta, and it does surprisingly taste like ricotta cheese. Really shocked me the first time I gave it a try, and I was pleasantly surprised at how I could get the flavor out of these ingredients, but it really works. So there is our tofu ricotta, and I'll show you how we build the lasagna next. Okay, so the spaghetti squash is out of the oven, and you can see now how easy it is to pull the spaghetti part of the squash out. So just gonna scrape it on out, and I'm going to put it in this bowl here. So this is what it looks like. See, it's still hot because I'm impatient, and I really was like, I don't know, when I started cooking this, it made me hungry, and now I want to eat it. So you should be able to get right down into the shell. And you should wait till it's cold, not like me. Right? I was doing it like pretty much just came out of the oven a couple minutes ago. But I'm ready to get to building my lasagna, so I'm really excited. So there's just one shell, and well, see why they call it spaghetti squash, right? Looks just like spaghetti. Okay, so we're gonna build the lasagna now. It's the spaghetti squash lasagna, and here's the scraped out spaghetti from the spaghetti squash. I'm using Foss Farms marinara, shout out to them for their delicious sauce. We made a tofu ricotta, which is so tasty. And here we go. We're gonna start layering. So I did coat it with a little olive oil, not olive oil, scratch that back up, coconut oil to around the edges of the pan before I put the base, just a tablespoon of sauce down. So here we go. We're gonna put some spaghetti squash in here. We're gonna layer just like you do lasagna. So there's that. Depending on how thick, how you make lasagna, how thick you like the layers. A thin layer. So here's our ricotta, and hopefully during the baking process it spreads out a little more. And this is my first time trying this recipe, so we will see how it all goes. And some more sauce. I'm not getting too fancy. Layering. There's football on in the background, so yeah, there'll be some yelling. Okay, so let's see. Then I'll meet you back here. We're gonna keep layering ricotta, marinara, spaghetti squash, ricotta, and then marinara all the way to the top. I am not going to use any vegan cheese on this just because I don't have any, and I think it's still going to taste delicious. So, vegan spaghetti squash lasagna, and it came out really, really delicious. Tastes good. So you can see the basil when I processed it in the blender. It said to leave some whole basil, and that's what I did. So it made a lot, and it's turned out really good. I'm really happy about it. Anyhow, I will link the recipe below, and I hope you enjoy it too. Take care. Bye-bye.